Hey there, everybody. I hope you guys are doing good. I'm doing alright myself. I finally got around to watching Match Me Abroad. So, here we go with Match Me Abroad, Season 1, Episode 7. Think You'd Get a Prince. We started the episode off with Chad. He was the new guy from last week. He just had got off the plane and his date picked him up. So we're picking back up on his date with Maria, fresh off the plane. They got out of the cab. They're done with grass cutting talk. And they go to this food stand or like this open outside restaurant. And it looks delicious. I wish I could go there. They don't have really good like Mexican food or anything like that where I live, so I miss it. He says Maria is beautiful and she's everything he wants in a woman. And my first thought was like, that's really shallow. Like, there's several other things you should want in a person besides beauty and being beautiful. A lot of very attractive people are terrible, right? So I just thought he went shallow with it. But he then does say she's like sweet and loves family. They're at the counter ordering and she asks if he likes chorizo and he said with eggs or something, and I ate chorizo and eggs like the whole time I was growing up. And it's delicious, and I definitely might have to make it soon. She said Chad has beautiful eyes, and, she loves that he loves his mom. And she's a little worried because he works like day and night, and she likes to go out and have fun. So she doesn't know, like, if they're quite a match. I'm sure she probably wants to, like, see her partner, right? Especially if she were to move to America and have very limited friends, especially like no friends right away, and not her family. So she doesn't know if they're a match yet. They start talking about like the restaurant's name, and she asks him to pronounce it. He did a pretty good job, actually. I didn't write it down. There's no way I could say it. So they bring out the food, and it just looks like heaven. And she starts asking him, like, what did he tell the matchmaker he was looking for in a person? And he says, tall or close to my height, dark hair, pretty much her and how she's perfect. So again, he just named like physical things, right? Not like practical, responsible with money, looking to settle down. Just tall. That's it. She laughs and says thank you. And we find out in the interview thing that she told the matchmaker, Juan, that she's looking for an American man and a gentleman, and he checks both of those. So I guess neither of them have a long list. They sure did not talk to Susan, because these two are easy to please. No wonder Juan is so frustrated with Susan. So we find out she's a community manager, and she she gets up at like 7 or so, and then goes to the gym, and then works. And Chad says he gets up at 2 in the morning to work out at the gym, and then he goes to work at 4 in the morning. And she's asked if he's the only one at the gym, and he says, yeah. That sounds like my worst nightmare, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm a night owl. I would rather, like, If I'm going to the gym at 2 in the morning, it's so I can go to bed at 4. I would not like that. So, night owl here. That sounded terrible. And then he finally mentioned she also has a good personality, so finally he noticed that, right? She asked him why he came to Colombia, and he said, to find someone to spend his life with. And then he proceeds to tell her he's been engaged 3 times. And, for about a year each time. And then, it goes over to her little, interview type thing. And she says it is weird that he's been engaged 3 times. And the whole time I've been watching this show, I've been thinking, wow, these people really share a lot for a first date. But then I remember they're, seeing a matchmaker so they can find, marriages and stuff like that. So maybe it isn't too much and you're supposed to put it out there quickly. But I think there's a limit. I don't think you should start with, I've been engaged 3 times and it didn't work out, right? He asks her if she's, ever been engaged. And she says no. It's different in Colombia. You have to be with someone for, more than a year to be engaged. He's like, well, now you're making me look bad, Kind of laughs it off. And, he says everything happens for a reason. There's a reason he, came to Colombia. And she kind of awkwardly, laughs again. And then it's, silence. And there's, a moment that I could see in her and her whole body language that she knew this man was not it. She just knew he wasn't for her. And I could see that she had checked out. Right? So then he's kind of, oh, I'm full. And he's like, are you full? And they decide to leave. He said it takes him a while to open up to people. But then, when he does, he talks his own head off. He doesn't talk their heads off, it's both. That's a lot of talking. He might get along with my oldest. Ha! That boy can talk. For sure. So, now he's starting to get, the, after anxiety when you overshare. And he feels like he hopes he didn't say too much because he could tell when he said he was engaged 3 times that she got really quiet. And yeah, that's what I was picking up on, and probably everybody else. Did you guys notice the complete change in her energy? So now he's worried she thinks he's some kind of playboy person, or he likes to play around, has a lot of women, and that's not true. He just has bad luck, I think. So he's trying not to screw this up because she's just everything he's ever wanted in a person, apparently. Tall, dark hair, good personality. I don't think he knows anything else, really. I hope that he realizes that there will be other future matches for him, and he doesn't have to just choose the first person he goes on a date with. And I really don't think she's gonna be choosing him after that goodbye. So I think he needs to, realize he's tired and jet lagged, and he just flew across however many miles. He needs to sleep it off and regroup, talk to Juan, because we know he's going to have some feedback. I'm sure he's going to tell him everything he did wrong, especially bringing up the engagements, the failed engagements. I think he should save that for after the base surface things are covered. My favorite color's black. I don't like tomatoes. I don't know, anything like that should come up before failed engagements. But, at least he's transparent, I guess. So next I want to talk about Nathalie. She's going out to the car and she gets picked up by Juan number 2. And she's going on another date. And she is kind of realizing she's looking for someone in between, like, who her mom picks for her and F-boy number 9 from the first date, right? Juan is talking and he says her next date, Alejandro, is a little bit older and calmer and less of a bad boy type. He's well traveled and they have a lot in common, so he thinks they're a great match. They meet up, they kind of have a quick small hug and like a cheek kiss, and they just start talking and they have really good conversation, like right off the bat. They can understand each other. No translator is needed, no cell phone. It's nice. We find out she was going to school to be a lawyer, or she still is, one of the two. And she's happy. She describes him as like a chef's kiss. Mwah. She says he has like a nice, warm, soft, sweet energy. And she's really like comfortable around him. And he seems so calm, right? And that's why it surprises her when she finds out he's a DJ, which is pretty cool. I always wanted to learn to DJ when I was younger. It looks like fun. I guess I still could learn. I'm not, incapable of that now, but it always looked fun to me. And she was surprised. She thought he gave off like teacher energy, right? She would think he would be like the fun, nice teacher. But no, he's a DJ, so that's cool. They go for a walk, and it's like this beautiful trail. He thinks that she's pretty and easy to talk to. And he also thinks that American women have more of an open mind. He asks her how long she's been single, and she says 2.5 years. And he's been single for 6.5. But yeah, she says she's really comfortable around him, and like she could talk to him about things others would judge her for. So I wonder if he's a water sign, because that's how water signs typically get described. We find out that he used to be an atheist, but now he meditates, which I didn't realize meditation could be a religion. So I think he means he's like spiritual. And it's like a translate thing. Or, he meditates and that's how he describes it. But I would call it spiritual. Especially based off things he said later. So she says that her mom is a Buddhist and encouraged her to meditate as a young kid. So they have that in common, which is cool. And then we find out her dad is Catholic. And when she was little, she always wanted to be a Catholic, but she likes Buddhism now because she feels like in Catholicism, when you sin or mess up or something, you go to confession and have to ask for forgiveness. And she doesn't like that. So that's why she prefers Buddhism. And he enjoys talking about people's religion and things like that. And, she says talking about your spiritual journey is an intimate thing. And it's nice that she could talk to him about it. Which is true. A lot of people are not open to things that aren't their religion and their beliefs. So it is nice when you're safe to do that. He's like, do you like this park? And she's like, oh, I didn't, yeah, it's pretty, but I haven't paid much attention. So she's got some game in there. That was smooth. I liked it. So they're just standing around talking, and she asks him about his tattoos, and one of his tattoos on like his shoulder says, let me get this right. Universe is mental. The universe is mental. And he starts talking about how he believes in angels and he can contact with them. He has contact with them. And I think he's talking about astral traveling and like dimension jumping and like being able to like astral travel out of your body into like the heaven dimension, which some people can do. I haven't tried, but I have heard about it. But he says, we're not getting into that. He doesn't talk about the spiritual stuff before sex. And she's like, that's like really specific. Why? And he says, if you talk about spiritual stuff before sex, you don't get laid. She's like, oh, really? Well, we can talk about this more later. And, implying they can talk about it after they get laid. And they had a good laugh. I had a good laugh. It was funny. She's so cute and innocent. But she's literally, like, she's honestly interested and has so many questions about his belief in angels and, the getting laid thing. So then Juan, number 2, picks them up again. And on the drive home, she asks him on another date. She says this is like exactly what she came here for. And he's basically the best date she's like ever had. And she hasn't actually went on a second date in a while. So yeah, of course he wants to go on another date with her. They have a nice little hug and they're both part ways excited and on the high of a great date. So maybe we'll see more of them in the future. I know we'll see more of her, and I really like her. She's really cute and innocent, and I just loved watching it. Moving on from Nathalie and her cute little date, we have a new person, Michelle. She's 34 from North Carolina, and we meet her and she's dressed as Cinderella. I'm so jealous. I wish I could. I guess I could do that. I'm going to buy a Cinderella dress. Just watch. Huh. Honestly, I would dress as Ursula or Maleficent or, something like that. I'm a Disney villain fan. Or Ariel. I always wanted her hair. So, anyway, Michelle is a marketing manager and a part-time party princess, and she performs at birthday parties and things like that. She enjoys it. She can use her musical theater major, and she gets cake. So she's here for it. It's a great side hustle for her. Her love life, however, is no fairy tale, and she's had many, many, many disappointments in that department. She also says that she is a staunch feminist, and I don't know what's the difference between that and a regular feminist, but she follows that with, we put too much pressure on women to reach milestones related to love. So like marriage, kids, those kind of things. She would like to find someone who's open-minded and liberal, but also traditionally romantic. She's trying to find her Prince Charming to go, with her Cinderella. So next she goes and meets up with her friend group, for some beer and Jenga. They have Jenga at the table. She says, her friends are great and all that, and they're great support, but she's missing a partner. When she sits down, they start talking about how she's had a rough year, and she thanks them for being consistent. And then we kind of go to an interview with her. And she says that in 2021, she lost her father to like a sudden heart attack. And they were very close. And, after that, she was just surviving, right? She put love on the back burner. She didn't feel there was room for love, like in all the darkness she was feeling, right? So she also was talking about she always wanted to travel to Europe, and before the pandemic, she had booked a trip, and her dad was very excited for her to go. And now she's thinking, well, maybe I'll try dating in another country. So she tells her friends, and she lets them know she's going to go try dating in Prague. They seem like a little surprised. She says her dad was very sentimental. He would want her to find love. And she's just had a hard time with American men cheating on her. And she doesn't think that, well, first, she thinks all American men are like that. And I don't believe that's true. You shouldn't generalize an entire country of men. But anyway, she doesn't believe men could be this way all over the world. Like, every man can't be this way. And she's even willing to move there potentially. She's moving there potentially. She wants to move there potentially, or they could move here. Whatever works out. She thinks, like, hopefully they would make her feel equal. And then she asks them, like, well, what if I use a matchmaker? And they think she's crazy. And, when she said Prague, I knew it was coming. But she's working with Katerina as well. And I wonder if she will annoy me as much working with Michelle as she does with Harold. I'm sure she will, because if she doesn't treat Michelle the same way she treats Harold, I'm going to be upset. But if she does, I'm going to be upset. So I don't think Katerina could win with me at this point. But we find out that she chose her because they're similar, meaning Katerina also used a matchmaker, and then she realized she was really good at it, so she started her own matchmaking business. And that's how they're similar. So they both want to use a matchmaker, or did. But, Katerina is going to be her fairy godmother. So, maybe the evil fairy godmother. Ha! I'm just kidding. She can't be all terrible. So anyway, she has a video call with Katerina. And, she's ready. She's packed up. She just threw her makeup and her undies in there. And Katerina thinks that the Czech men will respond well to Michelle because she's adventurous and has a curious mind and she's intelligent. But her problem is she is emancipated, which I don't know what that meant. She said emancipated, and I thought she said emasculating. But I went emancipated. And I think that, like, I know what that means when a child gets emancipated from their parents. They're, like, removed from their control. So I think she's meaning that Michelle doesn't want to be controlled. She'll remove. Anyway, Katerina says being a feminist princess is a big oxymoron. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out, right? Michelle says she wants a man who's confident in his own skin and, like, okay enough with themselves to be alone. She's very comfortable being alone and living alone. And I think she wants someone who's at that level of... It takes a lot of confidence to completely live by yourself and be okay. And like when you get to that point, you want someone to like add and bring value to you. You don't need someone who's going to like suffocate you to death with neediness and attention needing, when you have a whole life. So that's good. She didn't say beautiful or tall, so that's better. Katerina's saying, she thinks it's gonna be scary for Michelle to surrender to a man. Like, are you ready to surrender to a man? And Michelle's like, I don't like the term surrender. That sounds like a power play. And Katerina's like, surrendering can be beautiful, right? I think what she's meaning is like, women can be very strong and independent and all of that on their own. But when we get around like a divine masculine energy or like a stable masculine energy or a man that we're safe with and that we know has our back and whatever, we can become soft, right? And like vulnerable. That's what she's trying to mean. Like, can you let your guard down and surrender to the love part of it instead of worrying about all that goes with it? Michelle is confident that there can be a liberal romantic man out there because she's one, not a man, but she's a liberal romantic. But she's starting to get nervous because this is like the biggest, most expensive thing she's done. And now she's a little worried that the Czech men won't be able to handle her and her big American personality. And, I just think Katerina likes to make people feel bad about themselves and, like, push at their insecurities and poke at them and try to get, like, a reaction or a rise out of someone. That's the vibe I get from her. It's like, you just want to change them so they're not difficult and your job is easier. Like, don't make her feel bad about her views. Like, find someone who accepts them and is open to it and, is on the same level. You don't have to change her. Just like she didn't have to change Harold, right? She just wants her job to be easy. So, continuing with Katerina, we're going to go over to Harold. So, we meet up with him, and they're like heading off on part 2 of the date. And he's like, who would have known? Who would have known that I would have fallen in love in a sewer, on a boat, underground, in the cold, with the smell? Who could have predicted this, right? He's already in love. He doesn't want his date to end, so he called the hotel. He had them set up a nice dinner for them. And, she says it's only been a few hours, and it might be fast, but she feels really great with him. But when they walk into the table, there's rose petals, like there's a rose on the table. This hotel went all out for Harold, and I'm here for it. So, he's like, I've never had a fish steak, have you? And she's like, yeah, my last boyfriend was or her ex-boyfriend was a chef. And, like, immediately he's like, oh, so did you like my outfit today? Like, he just skipped past her and her ex-boyfriend, which is fine. It might make him uncomfortable to think about that. He's like, I usually don't dress like this, and he describes kind of what he usually wears, and he likes to be comfortable. And I'm sure he brought it up because he's afraid she's going to expect that all the time, and he only wore that because Katerina made him. But she says she usually wears jeans and a t-shirt too. And, he's excited that they're matching with her. He matched with her. He's excited that their clothes will match. They both like jeans and t-shirts. Why was that so hard to say? It's because it's called Match Me Abroad. But they'll match. Their clothes will match. She said like her last date was 4 or 5 months ago. He's like, well, mine was 6 years ago. And, she ghosted me when I got feelings. And these first dates are so intense. Like, they get into some, like, pretty serious, deep topics right away. Like I said, I don't know if that's because it's just a matchmaking process and people are ready to, like, get serious and they're not, like, just trying to hook up or anything like that. Or who knows, maybe that's... I mean, F-boy number 9 was using it to just hook up for sure. And, he's like, he would treat his partner with love and respect. And she tells him he seems very good and kind. And she feels free and normal with him. And she feels like a queen with him. And they're just a lot alike. And I think this is so awesome, right? And he asks her what she's looking for. And she says the same life and the same hobbies. And, speak to each other without being nervous. And he's like, I hope I'm not too forward, but how soon would you want to get married? Like, this man is sold on her. Like, that was the best answer I ever heard in my life. And she just said, it's important for her to feel it. Like, if she feels like she could get married, then she will. Also, this whole time, he's, like, firing these questions at her. This poor woman is trying to eat. Like, she'll have a mouthful of food, and he's like, when did you last have a date? And she's like, oh, I don't know. But it wouldn't be him if he wasn't like that. He knows what he wants to know, and he needs the answers, and at least he's prepared to ask things. He's not like, ooh, she pretty. He has, like, something in mind. And he says, she's giving all the right answers, and they have so much in common. And he wants so badly to ask her, like, when she would want to come to the U.S. But he does understand it's not appropriate to ask that at this time. But he would really like to. And, then she's still trying to eat, and he's like, I love our conversation. She's like, yeah, me too. And, like, he's like, can I hold your hand? And she lets him, and he holds her hand from across the table. And he just lights up with the biggest smile you'd ever see. And he's like, I know it's weird to ask, but he just felt it in his heart to ask. And it just feels lovely. And he's like overjoyed with the emotion. And I could tell he just wants to cry. It made me want to cry. It's like, oh, Harold, it's okay. And it's like, this poor man has just always wanted some kindness and a little bit of affection. And he's just finding it in this woman. He's so happy. She says she had a really great day. She's smiling. He says it's effortless being around her. And, he came halfway across the world just to meet her. And, like, the future that he's always wanted is just sitting right there across the table from him. And one thing about our guy Harold is he is so romantic. He puts so much effort into that. And even if it seems a little awkward, it's so genuine and it's so cute and refreshing to see someone, like, genuinely try to make someone else feel, like, happy and loved and, like, giddy. So he invites her back to his room to see like things he's collected on his trip, and mentions photos of the museums. And she's like, why not? Sounds interesting. And she's excited to go with him. So, as a joke, I think it was a joke, he's like, oh, we can go the 5 flights of stairs to my room, or we can take the elevator. I'm thinking, who wouldn't take the elevator? But the joke was on him because she just starts going up the stairs. And he's like, oh, okay. We'll take the stairs then. So they go up the stairs. They get to his room. He's like, oh, it's a little messy, and he's nervous about his clothes. And it wasn't that messy. His clothes were actually folded on the table. They weren't just flung around like Misha in Before the 90 Days. If you want to hear about that, I have another video about that. But it wasn't that messy. So she's like, yeah, can I see the pictures? And he's like nervous. And he's like, he hasn't shown his invention book to anybody in years. And this is like a way to show her he cares. And like, I'm hoping he's going to tell her how important this is to him. Because apparently it's the most private thing he has. So he shows her and he describes this invention, and it's a pool noodle with ribs on the inside. So when you wiggle it, it makes a gurgling sound. Why we would ever need that, I don't know. But it's cute. And she's like, interesting. And he starts to show her some more, and he's like, these are easier to understand. And she just kind of laughs because they're very complex, detailed drawings of like inventions and all the parts and pieces. And then she's like, well, do you have pictures of your family? Which I think is what she was expecting to see pictures of the whole time. It's like his trip and his family. So, he puts away his invention book, and he's like, this is my mom, and they're just showing pictures. He's like, look, a Star Trek shirt. And she's like, oh, I have a picture of me with one. And he's realizing that he needs to be natural and not so forced. And he doesn't feel like the same fear of rejection that he was feeling with Teresa. And she said she enjoyed the date. And they're sitting together, and he like grabs her hand and like sets it on her knee. He tells her, it's the best date ever. And you can see he's like, oh, I want to kiss her. I hope I could kiss her. Is this going to be the moment? And right when I'm thinking that, she leans in and she gives him a kiss, and he just can't believe it. And he's so happy. And it's been 6 long years, So they call it a night, and she's happy, and she wants, to hang out with him again and get to know him. And he walks her to her car, and he gives her like a little small kiss in there before she leaves. And I'm so happy for him and them, and they really hit it off. And I really want to see a second date. I'm so excited, and I'm rooting for him, and I feel like a proud little mama. So I'm going to end out here with Mark. Mark's in Morocco. He's meeting up with Nina. Now the thing with Mark is, I actually like him. Like, he doesn't seem like the kind of person I would enjoy. But he's such a good sport, and he's really putting his best foot forward and trying to do what he's told by Nina and directed to do. And I just feel like he's just like, he's not getting mad. He's just rolling with the punches. And we're going to talk about them. So she has him meet up in like a bar so they can have a drink. She says he's probably sick of drinking hot tea, and he doesn't understand how, people living there, it's so hot every day, they drink hot tea. So she starts to ask him about his date. And honestly, it's been so long since I seen him or anything. I almost forgot about his date. I had to think, oh yeah, he had a date. He says she was, friendly and funny and sweet and nice. And she said he was a gentleman and she had a good time. Nina asked Mark, does he want to see her again? And he's like, no, she's too young. So we'll, go to the next person, please. He's, wanting someone at the same place in life, so, closer to his age. He's hoping next time it's going to be closer to what he wants. So Nina's like, here's your next date. She's 25, so she's still young. The last girl was 23, so I don't know. Maybe all like the 30-year-old women are pretty much married in Morocco at this point. I mean, he's 44. So, she did not get the memo of what he's looking for once again. But Nina says, this girl is a boss. She has her own business. He shows her the picture. She's beautiful. And he's like, she wants to go out with me? And she does. So, she chose her because she has her own business. She's money oriented. And Mark was worried about that, about finding a woman who would want to work and bring money into the home. So, this girl knows where she wants to go already. On the date, she already knows where she would like Mark to take her. She's like, be ready, dress nice. She wants to be wined and dined. And the cherry on top of all of this is he gets to pick her up at the family home. And he's kind of like taken aback by this. And she's like, it's a gentlemanly thing to do, Mark. And he's like, we don't do that at home. It reminds him of being 15 and going to prom. But again, and this is his problem, he forgets he's not at home. And he needs to play by their culture and their rules. He came over there and signed up for this. He didn't research any of the culture before he went. I don't even think he watched a National Geographic special one time because he knew nothing about Morocco. So, he wanted something different. Here he goes. He needs to be open to it. But he is more, hopeful about this date because she's like more established. She has a career. But he's intimidated to meet her family. He's like, do they get to decide who she goes out with? Like, is it an interview? They're going to kick me out and there won't be a date? So, he's getting ready for her date. He's worried about going to her house and having to meet her family. All of that. But at the same time, he's nervous. He doesn't want to mess it up. He doesn't want to offend her family. And, he's not familiar with this culture, so he doesn't know what to expect. So he's greeted at the door by one of her brothers. And then we meet the other brother and the mom. And, like, the entryway, he, went down into the house. And there was this beautiful tile, everywhere, all throughout the house. I loved it. I wonder if that keeps it cooler. I don't know. I have to Google that. But anyway, it's beautiful. So they all have a seat, and he's sitting there, and he's like, so when will she be ready? And they're like, 30 minutes. He's got to sit there for 30 minutes with people he don't know, who don't really speak English. The mom didn't really speak English, from what I could tell. And, the boys were having a hard time. And he was having a hard time communicating with them too. So he starts telling him, he's from Chicago, the land of Michael Jordan and McDonald's. And he's apparently a small shareholder in McDonald's, so it's good for him when we go. So, I buy a lot of chicken nuggets and McDoubles. I'm pretty sure I'm paying for this guy's car or something. No. But I'm not even sure if they have McDonald's in Morocco. They probably do because McDonald's is like all over the world. But, not sure. I remember that Chicago's the windy city. I don't know why he didn't start with that. Everyone knows what's wind. So the mom gets up and leaves, and she's like, "You're welcome," which is like welcoming him to the house, I think. But he thinks that she's like saying to come with her. So he gets up and they all kind of laugh and they go to the interview with the brothers and they're like roasting Mark's clothes. They're like, Moroccans would never wear a suit on a first date. Maybe like wait for a wedding. But they kept calling him classy, he's dressed classy. So finally she comes descending down the stairs, dress flowing, pink shoes. Look, it was beautiful. So she comes down the stairs like the princess she is. And she is beautiful, but I didn't think she looked like her picture very much. But, whatever. So they say hi, and there's like this long silence, and she sits down, and, the family grilling begins. So they find out that Mark is 44, and the brother calls him old. But Mark is like, I look good for my age. I think, And he's like, so, where are we going? I'm ready. I've been sitting here a long time with your family. And she says they're going to a boat restaurant. He's like, okay, let's go. Immediately. He says she's beautiful. And what he's looking for. And he's happy with Nina's choice. But then we hear from her in her little sidebar. And she's like surprised by his age. She likes younger guys. She wasn't expecting a man that's 20 years older than her. And, Nina can't make nobody happy. This poor girl. Mark's first date was happy. But, Shanika, not that happy with Nina right now. Mark's like, you're not getting what I'm asking you for. And now this lady's like, he is too old. What is she thinking? So, Nina's going to have to figure it out. But yeah, I feel bad for Mark. They were teasing him. And all he did was dress nice, like Nina said for him to do. And she needs to be more specific, I think, in her instruction. So we'll see their date hopefully next time. Thanks for sticking around and watching if you have. And don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. I love all the comments I get. And thank you. Have a good night. Bye.